San Francisco Training Camp Live. Of course, it's brought to you by the Odyssey Station and the Odyssey app. Find it exclusively on the audio app. We're also going to throw this bad boy on YouTube. Joe Shasky, the Butcher, and Bonta Hill as we finally get ready for preseason game number 1. But so I just got to ask you, man, because coming off the weekend where we see the 49ers practice at Levi Stadium, fans were able to go to Levi Stadium for the first time since the NFC Championship game in January of 2020. Every fan got their first glimpse of Trey Lance. And it sounded like Trey Lance didn't have his best day. May have been his worst day of practice, which to me feels like it has tempered maybe the expectations for Trey Lance during his rookie season.
Look, it's one day, just like practice is only one day. And all you can do is put one foot in front of the other. And look, the reality is this, is that these practices mean very little to the organization. They did not move heaven and earth to just dip their toe in the Trey Lance saga. They are going to go cannonballing into the hot tub that is Trey Lance as soon as he can prove to them on the field against another team, not named the San Francisco 49ers, that he's ready. It's that simple. And it's not about narratives. It's not about fitting things into a cliche or a specific timeline. It's about whoever gives this team the best chance of winning. And I think on a day-to-day basis, as we monitor who gives them the best chance, I think that answer changes day-to-day. But there will become a time where that answer is strictly Trey Lance. But I don't think we're there yet.
We're not quite there yet as we get ready for the Kansas City Chiefs, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. at Levi Stadium, a game that we're all treating like it's a regular season game. This game has so much hype around it because Niner fans, I think, desperately want to see what this new toy brings to the table, right? I want to see what this Ferrari is in Trey Lance. But look, Sunday, he fumbled the exchange as you're charting down all the plays he's running and plays that Jimmy G is running. Shanahan said, hey, look, the exchange is something that the offense needs to work on. Trey Lance and the running backs need to continue to work on it, but Trey Lance is doing it with the twos, although he is throwing to Brandon Ayuk. And we saw a nice throw, pitch and catch to Brandon Ayuk Saturday at Levi Stadium. He is throwing to Deebo Samuel. But is Jimmy Garoppolo making his decision hard? Because it seems like he turned up his play and took it up a notch over the weekend down to Santa Clara.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the last stands for Jimmy. I mean, that's where it's at. If he wants to put his mark on the San Francisco 49ers, he has to come out and not miss a beat pretty much every single day in practice. This is part of the you can't leave yourself exposed, as they like to say. My dad would call it CYA, cover ya, you know what. So, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo by nature needs to make this difficult, but let's put the facts where they are. This is also on who's out there with these guys. You know, are they running with the ones, running with the twos? What kind of offensive line we have? From what it sounds like, and it's very difficult to break it down if you're not there, but it sounds like Jimmy's running with the number 1 offensive line, and Trey is running with the number 2 offensive line. Outside of, honestly, outside of wide receiver, the biggest drop-off from the 1s to the 2s might be offensive line on this team. And the biggest mismatch on the entire roster might be the second unit defense against the second string offensive line. So it's no wonder that Trey was struggling by everybody's accounts. And I expect this to bring the best out of Jimmy. Jimmy's a competitor. He's not dead yet. Like, he's a professional. And if he learned at the feet of Tom Brady the way we all have anointed him to do so, you would think he would have a right hook ready to go for this training camp.
No, there's no doubt about that. I want to focus on something you just said there, though, the drop-off with offensive line play. And I think you can go around the NFL and really focus on that. The backup offensive lineman, it just stinks at this level. It stinks in the NFL. We saw the Kansas City Chiefs try out 2 tackles that hadn't played all season long, and they got destroyed in the Super Bowl. There's just not too many quality backup offensive linemen.
Good point.
Also, you look at the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. Bakhtiari goes out. Oh, well, you know what? Aaron Rodgers is running for his life. So depth on the offensive line is always going to be an issue, especially in the NFL. But to your point, the Niners defensive line they got like 11 dudes. They are stacked. And we still haven't even seen Nick Bosa practice. We see D Ford in a limited capacity, and they say D Ford looks really, really good right now on that defensive line. You see Arden Key take a shot at the Raiders saying, I'm in the right spot. Chris Kosaric is coaching him up. So the second string defensive line is having their way. Yet that's what makes it more impressive that Trey is doing what he's doing in practice because of the line he's playing behind. It's not an interchangeable position. Like you swap running backs all the time. Mm-hmm. You can swap certain wide receivers, but offensive line and the tight end position, I think, is not deep at all. So until we see Trey run with the ones, man, I would really like to see that. I would like to see that on Saturday. Hopefully he gets some reps behind Trent Williams, Alex Mack, because if Trey Lance does start Shasky, he needs to know how Alex Mack snaps the ball. I know it sounds like, oh, man, he's just a hiker. He's a center. I think that stuff is very important. He's got to learn to line audibles. How is Alex Mack going to slide protection? Is he going to slide it left? Is he going to slide it right? Does Trey Lance know that? Does he have that camaraderie, that rapport with the center? I think that's very important, that if Shanahan is thinking about starting Trey Lance, why need to run it with the first string offensive line? I mean, can you give me a few reps here and there? 4 reps here, 4 reps there, 4 reps here, 4 reps there, because I get getting Jimmy up to speed. But what if Trey has to play? What if he has to take snaps behind Alex Mack? I would like him to have that. I would like him to be comfortable doing that and not just throw him in there where he's never taken a snap with Alex Mack.
Well, I think you make up a great point regarding the center. I mean, part of why they lost the Super Bowl was strictly because Weston Richburg got hurt, and they were playing a bunch of guys at that position who were understudies at best. I mean, we're talking 3rd, 4th stringers that shouldn't even have been in the league. So you hit on a lot of points there. Right. Continuity is extremely important. Part of the reason why Alex Smith never really truly developed was he didn't have continuity on the line. Didn't have continuity in the offensive coordinator booth. Didn't have continuity with the weaponry around him. There is no doubt about it. When I look at the successful tandems in the NFL, they have continuity. And it's not just head coach quarterback. It's head coach quarterback center, head coach quarterback center, wide receivers. Right. You know what I mean? It's not just one. It's all of these things. I look at someone like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and it feels like they always seem to have that continuity with the offensive line. I'm looking at a young man by the name of Patrick Mahomes, and for the most part, for his first 3 years in the NFL, he's had some great continuity. Now, he's going to have some different offensive linemen this year, but partly why this guy has reached the success that he has is because he has some ridiculously good veterans that no one ever wants to give any acknowledgement to. And partly why he struggled in that Super Bowl is because all their best linemen got hurt and he was running for his life.
Right. No, that's a great point. It's an excellent point. We see this in Super Bowls. We saw this with the great Tom Brady against Philadelphia. When the Philadelphia Eagles won their one and only Super Bowl, Tom Brady ran for his life. When you don't have good offensive line play, you will suffer, and your quarterback won't have time to throw. They'll be running for their lives. And even the great Pat Mahomes looked human on Super Bowl Sunday, partly due to the offensive line. But, I mean, it was the truth. It was like, man, Pat Mahomes is just out there. He's getting beat up. He's getting beat up because the guys up front. That's why I think guys invest big money, or teams, especially championship caliber teams, they invest big money in offensive line play because there's nothing like protection when it comes to passing, and it's not like getting those running game or getting that running game open and getting those holes blown open. But you also got to win from the pocket, man, and that's where I want to see Trey Lance. Trey Lance in the pocket in this first NFL game Sunday. What are the realistic expectations for a guy we've seen play one time in the last 2 years? Like, what are we expecting when we drive down to Levi Stadium and watch Trey Lance take snaps for the first time in the 49ers uniform?
I have no idea what to expect. I mean, Bonta, if he came out and threw for 200 yards and a couple of touchdowns, would you really be surprised? Like, honestly, would you really, truly be surprised?
I would not be surprised.
Okay.
And I also wouldn't be surprised if he threw 2 interceptions and only threw for 80 yards and he was like 7 of 18.
Exactly. And or maybe he just doesn't throw that well, doesn't throw any picks, but he runs really well. Like I can see so many different things on the spectrum. I have no idea. And that's why this is the most incredible preseason hype up I can ever remember in my life. I legitimately don't know what to expect from this young man. And I think that a lot of people are going to be watching him for the first time. This isn't a quarterback who played in the normal BCS bowls or played for the local college. This guy played at North Dakota State, played 1 game last year. The majority of the fan base, 99.9% of them, have never seen him drop back in a real game ever. So there is a almost not a car crash kind of a thing, but just like a weird, what the hell is going to come out of the bosom of Kyle Shanahan when it comes to this crazy child? Like, I can't wait to see what it looks like. I don't know. Bonta, I legitimately do not know.
I'm like, it's just, my imagination is running wild. Like, what will his first throw be? Will it be a bomb? Exactly. Will it be an outright? Will it be a quick slant? Is he going to do a quarterback keeper? Like, how much is he going to play? Is he going to get the entire first half? I can't wait till Shanahan decides what to do with Trey Lance on Saturday. But on the flip side, I'm also excited to see what Jimmy Garoppolo does. I am very intrigued to see what Jimmy Garoppolo does if he plays on Saturday. How does he look? Can he submit the starting job Saturday with a great performance?
I mean, to me, I think that there's going to be certain checkpoints throughout the preseason that Jimmy Garoppolo can maintain or extend his lead over Trey Lance. And I do believe Saturday is one of those. Jimmy didn't play a whole lot last year, like 6-7 games, and really only parts of 2 of those 6 or 7 games. So this is a guy that still needs to get reps. I mean, Bonta, the most he's played in one season is 2019. Outside of that, he's at like 6 games, 7 games max for a season. I still think we've kind of underrated how much seasoning he has to go. For a guy that's the age that he is, he's relatively unknown. Like, have we seen the best of Jimmy? Have we seen the worst of Jimmy? I don't know. I don't think I'm ready to write him off as this is who he is and this is all he can be. I think this is a really extremely important just to kind of pass the eye test. Can you move the ball a little, get the team down? Scoring a touchdown for him would be very big, more in the confidence of the entire team and the fan base, but also just to kind of like send a shot to the young man, like, I still got it against even if it's the second team defense for Kansas City and they don't suit anyone up. I think for his own self-confidence, it's very big.
No, I'm with you there. And can he get the chunk plays, right? Can you get the chunk plays? And how will he stretch the football down the field? Like, that's the one thing I think Niner fans, I think that's what annoys them the most about Jimmy Garoppolo. What? It's not that he can't hit the checkdowns. It's not that he can't drive the football and matriculate the football down the field and run the play action and run the RPOs and hit the slants over the middle. It's, can he hit the passes down the field, stretching the football field, and outside the numbers? How does he look throwing the football outside the numbers? That's one thing that we haven't really seen from Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw it at times in 2019, but really since 2017, when Jimmy just let it rip when he didn't have the playbook. And you saw a little more improv from Jimmy Garoppolo in the pocket. You saw him wiggle a little bit in the pocket. You saw him make throws outside the pocket in 2017 and at times in 2019. And I keep going back to the throw in 2018 in the first game of the season. It's not the pick six that he threw where Minnesota goes up 24-6. It's the dime he threw to Dante Pettis in the back of the end zone where he scrambled outside the pocket off his back foot. He did about 35 to 40 yards and hit Dante Pettis on an absolute dime. Can I see that Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I think if he balls out and Trey struggles, I think he'll make that decision easy for Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan's looking for one of these 2 guys to say, you know what, take the job. Take the job. And if Jimmy goes out there and performs at a high level and Lance struggles in this one, Shasky, I can see Jimmy maybe submitting himself as a starter for week 1 against Detroit.
I don't dismiss anything you said. I agree with everything, actually. And I also would kind of add on to that don't you think Jimmy Garoppolo is a very confidence-driven quarterback? Meaning when he's confident, boy, he looks good. And when he lacks a little confidence and he's hesitant, it's like a totally different Jimmy. He's almost like a 3-point shooter who's lost his stroke a little. You know what I mean? Or a guy at the plate who's going through a slump in baseball. I feel like him more so than some of the other quarterbacks in the league, he really relies on getting that steamroll of confidence going. Do you agree with that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. He's got like the Chuck Knobloch disease, right? He gets the yips that time in the pocket where he holds onto the football, and he just throws it away, or he throws the old no throw. Maybe Chuck Knobloch is a little too strong there. But yes, he needs that swagger. With Jimmy, every time Jimmy scrambles and he gives you the little first down, I'm like, okay, Jimmy's got that swag. We saw it in 2019 against Cincinnati. We saw it last year in New England, where that first drive, boom, third down, he scrambles out, he gives you the first down marker, boom, next thing you know, the Niners score a touchdown, and they blow out the Patriots at Gillette Stadium. When he's got that swagger, it resonates with the rest of the players. And what we saw in practice a couple Saturdays ago, I didn't see the same swagger from Jimmy that I saw in 2019 or at some points in 2017. If he plays with swagger, which, again, helps out his confidence, his self-esteem, I think we see a better Jimmy Garoppolo. But what do you make of him maybe throwing passes out after practice? He's working on his deep ball after practice. He's running sprints after practice, working out on his own. It does feel like he has a little FU to himself this year after seeing the Niners move all these picks for Trey Lance. With everybody buying number 5 jerseys, there's probably more Lance jerseys sold right now than Jimmy Garoppolo jerseys. I feel like he's got a little more FU in him. And you know what? I'm glad, because I think it will bring out the best in Jimmy for however long we see Jimmy in 2021.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I would like to see him, but he has to be true to himself, though, B. Like, that's the one thing. Like, nothing is worse than someone who's not themselves but pretends to be. I'm not saying that's what's happening in this case. I would like to see him let it all loose. Look, we are hypersensitive, and we've done every single one of these training camp lives regarding the San Francisco team about the quarterback. And we've touched on other areas. Why are we not talking about this defense? Because whoever is under center for this team at quarterback is going to rely on field position and this dominant defense getting 3 and outs in one of the toughest divisions in football. Do you think the defense is flying under the radar with all this quarterback talk?
They are. And I think there is some question marks, though, and we should be putting more focus on the defense because there's a first-year defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans.
Right.
What new wrinkles will he have for this defense? Is it going to be a blitz type of guy? Is it going to be sending the dogs on third down? Does he run more zone? Does he run a lot more man? I really can't tell right now because there's been so many defensive starters shuffling in and out of the lineup. We haven't seen Jaquiski Tartt yet, really, as he just came off of COVID protocols. We haven't seen Emmanuel Mosley yet on the practice field. We've seen a lot of Jason Verrett. He looks good. How does K'Wan Williams look? We know what he's going to bring to the table in the slot. Aubrey Thomas, he's looked good. But Lenore in Oregon, there's been some question marks about him. And look, outside of rookie quarterbacks, we don't trust rookie cornerbacks whatsoever in the league. Rookie corners in the NFL usually struggle because quarterbacks look that way and say, oh, that's a rook. Oh, let's see this ain't college football. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different piece in the NFL trying to play the cornerback position because the rules have favored the offense so much in the last 5 to 10 years.
What's your biggest concern on defense right now?
It would have to be secondary. But outside of that, I would say the health of the defensive line. So I'm looking at Nick Bosa, D Ford, and some of these guys inside, like a DJ Jones, who's battled injuries. Arden Key, who's been inconsistent. Mo Hurst had the heart situation coming into the draft out of Michigan. Health of the defensive line is huge for me because if this defensive line is as good as advertised as the defensive line we saw at practice, and that's been dominating, whether it's first stringers, second stringers, third stringers, if this defensive line is not healthy, then obviously it affects the secondary. Obviously it affects Fred Warner and this linebacker core. So that thing right there, the health of the defensive line, if they're humming and getting to the quarterback, Shasky, this defense will be a top 5, top 10 defense in the NFL.
I think Nick Bosa goes without saying as far as his importance. But we have made so much of the second-round pick and the amount of money that Jimmy Garoppolo's received. D Ford was given up for a second-round pick and very comparable money if you proportion it out to a defensive end. I mean, he's top 5 at the position the last 2 years, not this year because he restructured. They need to squeeze the lemon on D Ford. He needs to be healthy for this team. And so I'm looking at 2 players, clearly Nick Bosa and also D Ford. I think it takes this defensive line from good to extremely elite. And we're talking about a massive jump up. One of the top 13 or 14 teams in the league to one of the top 4 teams in the league on the defensive side of the ball, because that's how good he is when it comes to the pressure rate and his ability to jump that snap and play opposite Nick Bosa. Because if you are playing opposite Nick, you're going to see single coverage, and you better be able to beat one-on-ones. And D Ford can't.
Yeah, no, it's tough for him. And he's a liability in the run game. That's one thing in 2019 that didn't get exposed with the 49ers because Buckner, Armstead, and Nick Bosa was so good against the run. So D Ford was able to get help on that side in the run game to where when he was with the Chiefs, it's locked in my memory. When the Seattle Seahawks played the Chiefs on the Sunday night football game, they ran at 55 all day long. And again, Dee Ford didn't have the supporting cast he had in Kansas City as he does out here in San Francisco. But that's one thing where I think the Niners would love to just keep him fresh for third and longs, for third downs in passing situations, to where he is a pass rush specialist and, burn him out, by week 8 by playing 3 downs at a time, playing all 3 downs. Or, you know what, Dee Ford's just let him play on third downs. Let Arden Key, let Armstead play on the outside in the run game in base down situations. So if they're healthy, boy, this team is going to be scary because Kinlaw, he is massive, and I'm expecting Javon Kinlaw to take that next step as he gets a chance to play next to Nick Bosa for an entire season, hopefully.
And he's another guy that I've been concerned with. He didn't get a training camp last year, and he really hasn't played a whole lot in the training camp this year. Like, this is a very important pick. I mean, you moved off of DeForest Buckner. You jumped up in the draft, and he was sitting there. And you took him, and he's a large human being. But I'm a little concerned that we haven't seen a lot of Javon Kinlaw because, that's a massive, massive hole. He took big strides in season last year. What is he in year 2? I expect elite players to take quantum leaps from year 1 to year 2. And I'm just not sure if he's going to get the chance to really show that in practice.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I 100% agree there. Something we could spend maybe just a minute on it. Nobody ever talks about it. But Friday night, I'm sitting there in the lab, and I'm getting my guru on, just kind of thinking about the 49ers roster and how the season's going to play out. And one thing that we haven't really talked about, because it's boring, it doesn't get the clicks, nobody really cares until they get on the field and they do something wrong or they commit a mistake, and that's the kicking game. Where's Robbie Gould at, and where's Mitch Wisnowski at? Because one thing Wisnowski, as he was drafted in the 3rd round, a lot of people made a big deal about a punter being drafted in the 3rd round. I need great punts from him this year, and I need his kickoffs to go through the end zone. And then where's Robbie Gould at? You know what I'm saying? Robbie Gould's getting up there in age, and in today's NFL, the margin for error is so thin, so thin. All these games are coming down to the last possession, it feels like, especially in the last 5-6 years, as we see a lot more parity in the NFL. The kicking game, to me, is going to be important. I know it's a boring thing to talk about, and who knows what's going on through my head on a Friday night when I got baby Chaz in the crib and Anna's chilling and we're watching movies. But for some reason, I start thinking about the kicking game. This is big for Robbie Gould, man, because I feel like a lot of people are kind of down on Robbie Gould because of the length of his kicks. Like, can I trot out Robbie Gould for a 53-yard field goal? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not sure where he's at. The Niners have done a great job for about 10, 12 years squeezing the lemon on a lot of these older kickers. Like, they really have. Phil Dawson, Akers, obviously Gold. Like, they've done a really good job of finding value because it is an important position you don't think about until the individual doesn't hit kicks. You know what I mean? So this is really important. Just watching him in practice, I was shocked. He kicked a couple into the end zone, into the back of the end zone. Wisnowski has a massive, massive foot, but he's been inconsistent, if we're being honest. I mean, a squib kick here, a deep ball there. You got to be really good. And I think one of the hallmarks when Nedney and Andy Lee were there is they were just very consistent. You don't have to be Mr. 55-yarder, but are you clutch between 30 and 45 yards? That's the thing that Phil Dawson absolutely was, and guys before Robbie Gould. And Robbie Gould's been pretty damn reliable for this team. But, you see it all the time. Like Vinatieri last year. He was just done. That could happen to an older kicker. So he's got to stay healthy, no question.
Right. No doubt about that. Hey, real quick, before we move on to Saturday's game, or actually something I want to touch on before we get out of here. This Saturday's a return to the fans inside of Levi Stadium. They got a glimpse of practice on Saturday. Joe, you have season tickets. So I want you to tell our audience here on San Francisco Training Camp Live just how good it's going to feel to park in a parking lot, make the drive down to Levi Stadium, and get your butt in a seat in Section 3. What is 327, I believe? 307?
327.
Section 307, Shasky?
I'm just so looking
327, 327. Yeah. Just think about what the fans are thinking. We're going to get live football back in the Bay Area for the first time in a couple seasons.
You got to remember this team finished the season last year in Arizona. They weren't even in the state of California. It has been so long since fans have been able to embrace this team. A real game. You're going back to January of 2020. I mean, that's before the pandemic. I'm really looking forward to this. I think the region is really looking forward to this. I think this fan base has a whole reignited vigor for the team that maybe they wouldn't have had come. I mean, they would have been excited coming off a Super Bowl. It just feels different. You know, there's some distance between us and that Super Bowl loss. There's some newness when it comes to the roster. I think there's a renewed faith in the organization for how they've handled some of these roster transactions. I'm really looking forward to this. And obviously we get to see hopefully some throwback uniforms at some point from this team. Night games at Levi Stadium, especially at the end of summer, they're really fun. I mean, they're really fun. I love night games at Candlestick. I think Levi's shows out for these dusk starts. I really do. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm ready to see how many people turn out, because I feel like a lot of people are going to turn this game, this preseason game, into one of the more fun preseason games I've ever been to. And Lord knows I've been to a bunch of ZZZers.
Yeah, this preseason slate is pretty fun, right? You get the Chiefs week 1 of the preseason. Hopefully we see a little Mahomes. Week 2, they're down in L.A. scrimmaging against the Chargers, and then they'll take on the Chargers and Justin Herbert and go against him in practice, of course. And then week 3 is the the old battle of the Bay, but the Raiders, who are now in Las Vegas, they make their way back up to Northern California, which should be a lot of fun at Levi Stadium for the third and final preseason game. So looking forward to that. I would ask you about players you're looking forward to the most on Saturday, but let's save that for Friday when we touch back down here in Training Camp Live at high noon. We'll do that Friday as some of the players outside of Trey Lance, you know, guys we're looking forward to watching there on Saturday who could possibly steal a roster spot. But John Lynch got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame over this past weekend in Canton, Ohio, put on his gold jacket. And poor John Lynch, he had to follow up Peyton Manning in that great speech Sunday evening. But John Lynch, a Hall of Famer as a GM. And you know what? We all remember the thumper that he was with Tampa Bay and Denver, won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just used to put people on their backs. This guy played physical, and we see the 49ers kind of embody the John Lynch playing style by the way they play on the football field. So having a GM like that has been really cool. What did you make of John Lynch being inducted over the past weekend?
I mean, it was well-deserving. There's no question about it. I mean, this is one of the all-time smartest players the league has ever seen. He's one of the very, very, very few players to be inducted into 2 different teams' Ring of Honor. Obviously has Bill Walsh ties, playing at Stanford, converting from quarterback to safety. We remember him for being extremely physical, but I cannot express, he was the smartest player on that defense. They had Derek Brooks and Simeon Rice and so many great players on that defense. And yet he was the one so far that's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Warren Sapp and Booger McFarland. I mean, just some great defenses that he played with. And I was listening to a podcast regarding him. I mean, he's so smart, so understanding of how to evolve over time. He basically said, a lot of people say, John, you couldn't have played in today's NFL because of how physical you were. I would have adjusted. And that's the kind of thought process why I believe he's a successful businessman and will be a continued successful GM. The guy isn't stuck in the past. He evolves his thinking. And I think he's smart and wily like a fox, where he makes it out like, I'm just, oh, shucks, happy to be here. He knows how to work the room. I think he's 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of everyone. And he played the safety position, though very, very, very physical. He played it very much from a mind control standpoint, like a Peyton Manning. He's the last of some of those cerebral safeties.
Yeah. Well said, Shasky. Well said there. And look, he's made shrewd moves as a GM of the 49ers. He just moved a lot of first-round picks to go get Trey Lance. He moved a second-round pick to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw him wheel and deal in his first-ever draft as a GM of the 49ers when they traded back one spot to select Solomon Thomas, and he moved back up into the draft to select Reuben Foster. This guy is a gambler. He will make moves, and he is smart. And you see him on the practice field. He is very, very transparent. So we'll do this again Friday, high noon, San Francisco Training Camp Live. Thanks to Evan Giddings for producing this bad boy. Joe Shasky, love you as always. I'll see you on the morning roast at 6 a.m. right here at 95.7 The Game. Find this podcast. Find this on the Odyssey app, exclusive on the Odyssey app. It's going to be a lot of fun, baby.
Let's go.
We're nearing week 1 preseason. Trey Lance, his 49ers debut happening on Saturday, but we got one more Training Camp Live episode right before that game, Friday, high noon. Take care, everybody.